I looked over 100 years and I realized that at a 2% inflation rate, and that's the rate at which we mine more gold, at a 2% inflation rate, that means the half-life of gold is about 36 years, which means that the value of the gold you hold is cut in half 3 times over 100 years, which means that if you started with 100, you ended up with 12.5% of the money you started with over 100 years.
Explain that in a little more detail. How does that happen with gold?
Say you owned 100% of the supply of gold this year. The gold miners produce 2% more gold every year. It compounds, which means it takes 36 years before they've doubled the supply of gold.
Got it.
You own half the supply of gold in 30 years. You own a quarter of the supply of gold in 70 years.
So the relative scarcity
12%.
decreases as you hold it.
It's inflating.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
And so gold, although it's quote unquote sound money, and in the Austrian economy school of thought, it was the best money, it's not perfect money. The reason that you had stable prices throughout the gold era, you know, the gold standard age, is gold was inflating about 2% a year. And the economy is growing 2% a year. And so if the output of goods and services grow at the rate of the money supply, the price is constant. Okay? If the money supply is fixed and the economy grew 2% a year, prices will fall 2% every year.
Right.
And by the way, in technology, when you look at technical products where the company grows productivity faster than 2%, in a gold world, the price would fall very fast. Okay, so what's going on is there's a race between productivity and money supply. And if I can drive the price of the product down 20% a year, I can inflate the amount of money 10% a year, and the price of that thing will fall 10%.
Yep.
But if I didn't inflate the price of money, it would fall 20%, you see. So I looked at gold. I said, I need something like gold. But the problem with gold is it's a conventional asset. It had kind of recovered a bit. And I thought, it's not perfect. It's the best idea in the 19th century. And it's not quite working in the 20th century. And so I started thinking, what if someone designed digital gold? What if now we go back to the engineer saying, can you perfect gold? And the engineering idea, how do you fix gold and make it perfect? Well, you make it impossible to mine anymore. What if, and then we get into the fantasy thing. What if, if God came down, and there's a bit of theology here, if you allow me, if God came down and wanted to fix gold, it's impossible to make any more gold, right? How can you make it better? It'd be really great if it was weightless. How do you make it better? I'm going to cast a spell and allow you to teleport the gold anywhere on Earth. If God said, I'm going to implement a system of 21 million gold coins, but we're going to call them God coins, and I'm going to keep them in a bank in heaven, and I'm going to let you transfer any amount. I'm going to let you subdivide it by 100 million, and we'll call them Satoshis. And I will let you transfer peer-to-peer and pay anybody, anytime, instantly at the speed of light, and I will keep track of the ledger of who, who
in
owes
an incorruptible way.
I will never cheat you, and I will do it forever, for free. If God offered you that kind of divine bank, and you were sitting in Argentina when the currency was collapsing to zero, the Argentine peso went from $1 to the peso to 1,000 pesos to the dollar over 20 years. And it did it 5 times over the century.
Right.
Or if you saw it happen in Russia, where their currency collapsed, the currency collapsed in Brazil, not 25 years ago. Currency collapsed in Germany a few times. If you read the history of civilization, read Durant. Durant's talking about currencies collapsing in Russia in the 16th century.
Yeah.
The Roman emperors.
It's a substantial lifetime risk.
Pretty much, on average, the currency collapses every 30 to 40 years in most political jurisdictions for all of human history. And if you get a currency to last by the way, the best currency of the last 100 years is the dollar. The U.S. won every war of the 20th century. My house in Miami Beach traded for $100,000 in 1930. It would trade for $100 million